Why, hello there. Uh, don't know where you might be in the world, but I'm in Scotland, in Edinburgh. It's just coming up to 7:30 in the evening. It's dark, end of a good week, so I thought, why not try something and arbitrarily rank NFL logos? For a long time, I've really loved logos. I have absolutely no qualifications to rank these, but thought this might be fun, might be a good way to spend the evening. The wife is out having fun, so I'm gonna try some of her whiskey. I'm not a huge whiskey fan, but thought, right, NFL, what kind of a drink would you have? So got myself a nice little glass, bit of ice in it, have a bit of tonic water in case I can't deal with the whiskey. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. That looks about right. So this is seaweed and eons and digging and fire. Ooh, I like that. Sound of that. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to rank these logos, talk a little bit about them, what I like and what I don't like, and that'll be it. If I like it, I'll do it again. I'd love to do some maybe more obscure ones, I don't know, fast food brands or coffee chains or logos that no longer exist or flags. So if you come across this video and you like it, let me know. Let me know what you might like to see ranked next. So with that, cheers. Hope you're having a good day, night, wherever you are. And let's get started. Oh, I also have some water just in case. Cool. Well, let's get going. So, there are should have done this before. How many teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 teams. There are 32 teams in the NFL. Of course, you knew that. I will try and talk through my biases as somebody who grew up in the States in the 90s and early 2000s. Football was definitely like everywhere. It kind of was when it started to become big. And my family, who, both my parents were from outside of the US, they moved there. And watching the Super Bowl was a big deal. Getting into football was a bit of a big deal. I'm not the biggest football fan. I'm not actually a football fan at all, but my mom is. So if you could imagine a lovely lady with a colonial British accent, like Robert, don't do that to other children, that kind of a thing. Really getting into at the time the Washington Redskins, always never a good team, or often never a good team. So she was very angry a lot of the time. Really hates Tom Brady, thinks that he's just awful, simply dreadful. But football was quite active in our house, and we would rent this big screen every year, and then invite a whole bunch of people over for a Super Bowl party, and it was very cool back in the days when you could actually rent big TV screens, put them in your house from Rent-A-Center, if anybody knows that. So my background with football is definitely a spectator. Um, I did play it once when I was 13, 14 in middle school, and the coach broke my elbow, which is a funny story. So I ended up being the water boy for the rest of the year, which actually suited me quite well, and I enjoyed that. Uh, anyway, enough waffling. Let's get in. Let's have another sip. Ooh, I don't know if it's growing on me or what. No, it's not yet, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's see. Where do we start? Let's start with the first Super Bowl I saw was the Tennessee Titans. So that's the logo right here. And I think Tennessee's a pretty cool, like a decent logo. I like the fact that there's a key circle around it with the stars. That's seems to me like reminiscent of the Tennessee flag. If you look up the Tennessee state flag, one of the coolest state flags, the volunteer state. And I like the kind of blue and red um, uh, going on there. I don't really get the link with the name Titans and Tennessee, aside from the fact that it's T. So I think it's solid. I think it's a solid B, B logo. I think that's reasonable. That's fair. Maybe I'll go back and relook at these at the very end just in case re- reallocate them if they deserve it. But how old are the Tennessee Titans? So they were originally 1960. Oh, okay, cool. So they moved to Tennessee. I definitely moved to Tennessee in the early 2000s. But where did they actually come from? They came from. Oh, they were the Oilers, of course. Okay, so sorry, all you football fans. So they were the Houston Oilers, and then they moved. When did they move? They must have moved. Did they move twice? Houston Oilers, no, the 90s, and then did they go? So they moved from the Oilers to the Titans in in the 1998. They were the Tennessee Oilers. 1997, 96. Okay, so they moved in 96. Anyway, so they used to be the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers were like an epic one of the old teams, one of the original teams, which is pretty cool. All right, cool. Anyway, Tennessee, off to a good start. B, solid. Um, how about we do the LA Rams? This logo is I actually think pretty cool on one hand. I think what they did though with moving the Rams from St. Louis, so the Rams were in LA. They were also somewhere else beforehand. I'll have to look that up in a second, but I can't let go. Actually, I can look that up. 1 second. I can leave that here. They were somewhere else. Weird, weren't they? So because they were founded in like 1937, so they're a very old team. But they started and like it was like somewhere like Cincinnati or Cleveland. Oh yeah, 1936 Cleveland Rams, right? So they're very old, 1936 Cleveland Rams. And then they make their way to LA and then they go to St. Louis and then they come back to LA. And I have to say, I really like their St. Louis logo, the kind of ram head. And you can see that they've kind of kept that with the A. It's like it's a horn, a ram horn, with a little eye going there. And some of their logos are a bit closer to that kind of ram head. They've also done something weird with the colors. So like the St. Louis Rams were a bit more dull, like navy blue and kind of gold. Whereas if you look at an LA Rams um, jersey, it's like vibrant, like bright blue and bright yellow. I actually think it's quite nice. I don't think it's super interesting though, and it's weird. Like LA Rams fans are really into the logo now because they went to the and won the Super Bowl last year. But they really hated it initially. So I don't know. I'm not a fair weather fan. I think it's okay. Actually, you know what? I think it's a C. Sorry, LA. I will. I'll take your letters. Let's see who's next. The Seahawks. So what I like the Seahawks. I like how kind of simple the Seahawks logo is. I also really like how Seattle as a general city has like a bit of a brand thing going on with its sports teams. At least with the Seahawks and what was it, the Mariners, similar kind of color schemes. I also really like if you look, you can't see it super clearly right now, but if you look it up, the Seahawks is green is like almost like a fluorescent green, and they use that in a really cool way. Their old uniforms used it in a really cool way too. So yeah, I think B as well. Like, is it really memorable? Are you going to notice that walking down the street? Yes, probably, but like internationally, I don't know. And it just looks like an angry bird. And sorry, Seattle, but that's what I think. Um, oh, the Texans. Okay, so the Texans. Hang on, let me pull up some information about the Texans. They are. I think they're a newer team. Yes, they are the newest team. So they were an expansion team. and they were created in 2000, was it 2? Yeah, 2002. I really like this logo. I think it's great. I think it shows forward movement. I think it shows action. It really brings in this flag really nicely. It's clear that it's like a steer, like a bull. I really like it. I think it's a good, clean brand. It brings in the flag. Big fan. Have no idea if the team's any good. I don't know if I've ever actually seen a Houston Texans game, but I really do like that logo. So another one I really like. Let's see, another one I really like. Well, okay, so the Steelers logo, I think, is quite iconic. And I know that, like, it's actually, if you look at it, relatively simple and brand, and it kind of, and a bit bland. It kind of reminds me of like an automobile logo in some way. One of those old, um, I don't know which one it was, whether it might have been the old Buick or Oldsmobile. There's this kind of star, the diamond star thing going on. It definitely looks old fashioned industrial. I feel like they could make it look a little bit more retro though, a little bit more like I don't know, 70s with the text a little bit more, and maybe play with the colors more. So it's an iconic team, but I still think it's like not that interesting of a logo. But I do like the fact that it's iconic. But I'm trying to be clear in terms of what I'm doing with this. So yeah, it's I like that. I like the iconography of it. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's maybe that's unfair. I'll put it as C as well. It's just not as pleasing to the eye as I feel like it could be. Um, the the next one, this one. Okay, the Patriots. Patriots. This is my bias here. I grew up in a household where the Patriots were not welcome. Tom Brady was not welcome, and Bill Belichick was considered a hardcore cheater. So so definitely biased against the Patriots. Don't really like them as a result. But I also think that their logo is pretty cool, just in terms of it's a face. There's a little literal patriot. There's that forward motion again. I don't think it's at the level of the Texans, just because like it's a little bit. There's a little too much finickiness in the face. So it's not like instantly understood or visible from a big distance, unless it's the general shape. It kind of looks like, I don't know, it kind of looks like the state of North Carolina or South Carolina, one of them. I don't know. So it has this shape that's memorable, but I feel like it's a B, maybe even a C. Yeah, it's a C. Yeah, that's for Bill Belichick. Um, who's next? I'm gonna leave a certain one for a little bit later until I've had a couple more drinks, because I have a lot of thoughts about it. Um, oh, oh, oh. Apparently you get to like Scotch more, whiskey more. I haven't found that to be the case yet. Um, let's do the Saints. I like the Saints. I like this. Obviously it's like was it a fleur de lis? Um, from a football team, though, it's a instantly recognizable. It's iconic to the local area, and I think it's something that you can emblazon. You can really identify as as a fan with. So I quite like the Saints logo. I think it's elegant. It has a lot of history with it, and it doesn't need to change that much. And I don't think they need to change it. Maybe they could like brighten it up or change up the colors. I've always thought the Saints colors are very like subdued, whereas New Orleans is not a subdued place. But yeah, I quite like the Saints logo. The let's see, what was so the Arizona Cardinals, this one. The Cardinals are really interesting. Even though Arizona Cardinals, they sound like they would be a new team. They're a very old team. They were founded in 1920, and they were the Chicago Cardinals, which is really interesting as well. Their logo's gone through a few changes throughout the years, but I think it's okay. It's just like it's a cardinal that's a little bit angry looking. Kind of looks like a college team logo. I don't know if you look at like University of was it University of Kansas with the Jayhawks? But I don't know. It doesn't look. This could be the baseball team Cardinal. Like I don't see. I like it. It's very clear. So, but it's not like it could be anything, right? Whereas the Texans logo is different. It doesn't look just like a bull, right? I don't know. I can't explain it. I like it. It's okay. It's clear. Not as good. Uh, this one, okay. The poor Miami Dolphins. Next, let's see. When were they founded? I feel like have they ever won anything? Let me see what the Miami Dolphins are like. But have they finished? Okay, they won. They were good back in the day. Okay, so I remember the Miami Dolphins. I always think of Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I don't know if anybody else is aware of that, but they did like a tie-in with one of the Ace Ventura movies. And Dan Marino was this like famous quarterback that was like everywhere at a certain time, but he was also well known for like never winning a Super Bowl. And like that was what he was known for, like being a good quarterback, but that just never winning. And there are a few of these that happen in the NFL. I feel like the Dolphins, with a team called the Dolphins, I always forget that they're a team until I see someone play them, and inevitably they beat them just because they usually aren't very good. Although apparently, looking at the rankings, it looks like they've done better in recent years, which is great. They're a team like I feel like I should Dolphins, and Dolphins sound really cool. I think their logo looks like a water park. I don't know. I feel like it also hasn't been updated in a long time. So yeah, I don't really like the logo. It just brings back a lot of memories. So I'm gonna do D tier there, just because. Come on, it's a dolphin. Like dolphins are one of the coolest creatures on Earth. I feel like it could be better than that. So sorry. The Bengals are one of our is my like favorite second team growing up. I always thought, oh, they're pretty old too, 1968, but they didn't start as Bengals. No, surely not. Where did they start as? They were in 68. They were since. Oh no, they were. Really? Okay. Cincinnati Bengals. So they're really old. But I have always thought that the Bengals, their logo with the B is not super great, but their helmets are really cool because they have the stripes. And they're always this team that like they never have any investment in them. And they're usually like growing up, they were always last. So they were always the bottom. And for some reason I found that really endearing. And I got really excited at the fact that they were in the Super Bowl last year, especially with the amount of money that they don't have. But unfortunately, they didn't win. I hope that their coach or their owner actually put some money into it because their brand is actually, I think it's really really cool. I love the fact that it's the only team that has that kind of a design on their helmets, and I don't know. They have a lot of potential as a brand. So I'm going to put them as a B because I really would love to see them go up. And there's a tiger, it should you should be able to do something cool with that. Um the I'm going to do what am I going to do next? Oh, the Ravens. Okay. The Ravens, I like the Ravens. Obviously, I grew up in Maryland, so just outside of DC in Bethesda. And Baltimore Ravens were big. They won a Super Bowl when I was like maybe 12 or 13, so was really excited about that. But interestingly, like if you grew up in Bethesda in Maryland and around DC, it was much more likely that you were supporting the Redskins. And the Ravens always seemed to me like a much more maybe uh, uh, both rural Maryland team, but also like people who work really hard, like industrial, in a similar way to maybe the Steelers, that like the fan base was really, really pure, really focused, but really in love with their team. But the team didn't feel very old, if that makes sense. Like they had really. I think the team came uh, to the city in the was it the 90s? Let me see. I should have looked all this stuff up. But where are they? 96. And they were, I think they were an expansion team. Yeah, they were an expansion team in 96, but it was a bit more complicated than that because they were the Browns owner, the Cleveland Browns owner wanted to move, and so the Baltimore had a team called Baltimore Colts, and they moved in the middle of the night. I think that's their story. They moved in the middle. They were taken in the middle of the night and moved to Indianapolis, and that was like a betrayal to the city of Baltimore. And then the owner of the Browns wanted to move the Browns to um, Baltimore, and then they got into a whole hullabaloo. So they agreed for the owner to like help finance a new Cleveland team or something, or a new expansion team. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but there's some drama and around that. But Baltimore, the Ravens, for being so new, they only came up in the 90s. They've won surprisingly often, and they're usually known as a very good defensive team. And I love the name. The name, the Ravens, sounds a bit weird and odd, and I think their logo is pretty cool. And I love the fact that they're purple, but they're named after Edgar Allan Poe, the Raven, who obviously is a Maryland figure. And I just love the fact that there's a literary reference. I also love the fact that the Baltimore Ravens, really embrace the fact that they are a Maryland team. And for those of you who do not know about the great state of Maryland, uh, let me show you what this flag looks like. Like, it'll cause you seizures, right? This is a bright flag, and it doesn't really conform to a lot of flag rules, but they love it, and they put it everywhere. And as a Marylander, I love the fact that they are putting this monstrosity of a flag all over the place. They put it on their helmets, they put it on the field, they put it everywhere, which is great. So maybe I'll do a state flag one, and I'll have some things to say about the Maryland state flag. Anyway, I think Baltimore is reasonable. I'll do the Cowboys. The Cowboys, obviously, my bias here. Grew up Washington fan, so the Cowboys were like the enemies. I think a Cowboys fan would say that their logo is iconic. Uh, I think it's a bit boring. Like, I get it; it's a star, and I think that if you were to say to anyone in the world who followed sports team with the star logo, people would say Dallas Cowboys because it's one of the most well-known, franchises in the world, sports franchises in the world. I just don't think it's particularly that interesting. Like, I think that the Saints one is a bit more interesting just because of the design. Although obviously the Dallas Cowboys, the star is probably in reference to the state flag, the Lone Star State, and all that good stuff. So I do like it. I think it's obviously simple and elegant and eye catching. Um, but I don't like it as much, so I'm gonna keep it in B. But it's a very high B. Maybe it goes in A if these two go up. So anyway, that's my thought. Green Bay Packers. I love the story of the Green Bay Packers. It's owned by the community. It's in Green Bay. It's one of the I think it's the smallest metropolitan area for a team. They are usually very much better than the amount of money that the team actually has. It has a great working class background in terms of like the history, all that kind of stuff. I do like green and gold. I'm a big South African Springboks fan. That's green and gold as well. I don't like the G. I just don't like it. I just think it's silly. I think make it a cheese, a block of cheese, or make it, I don't know, make it something, a Packers, I don't know, do something with that. But I just find the G a little, it's iconic as well. Yes, fine. But I think it's not as good as the Cowboys, or the Steelers. I just think it looks a little, G, is it like Georgia or Georgia Tech or one of them also have a G? But anyway, it doesn't turn me on. So the Lions. Um, I like the Lions, Detroit Lions. I love the color. I love the kind of light blue. It is a lion, but it's surprise. I don't think it's changed very often. And also, it's a team with a lot of history, and it's been around for a while. So I quite like it. It's nice. I don't know. Maybe it's unfair, but I'm going to put them at C right now. Um, yeah, maybe that's going to change. But the Falcons, Atlanta Falcons. I've never really looked at watch the Falcons intensely. I mostly remember them for the Michael Vick years, and that's kind of been tarnished because Michael Vick's a bit of a problematic character now. However, I've always thought that the logo is really cool. It's taking the falcon and making it look intimidating and kind of a bit. Obviously, there's that forward motion. It's in flight, but it's a weird shape, but it's also quite recognizable. So I think I think it's a better logo than like the Seahawks, even though it's like similar in terms of it's a it's a bird of prey that is trying to look intimidating. I just think it works better. It also looks kind of Art Deco-y to me, and I like that. I think that's really cool. Um, right. So let me go. Oh, let me actually load something here. Okay. Buffalo Bills. It's fine. It's fine. But it's kind of like the Dolphins and the Packers. It's like it's okay. And the Steelers. It's okay. It's been the same forever. Buffalo is one of these, old iconic teams. Very doing a lot better this year. I have quite a few on my fantasy team, and they've done very well. They beat the. I think they beat the. They beat who? They beat. They beat someone 38-2 or 38-3 last week, which is great. But as a logo, if you didn't know that they were the Buffalo, they were Buffalo Bills, could you tell that that was a Buffalo? Like honestly, I don't. I don't really think so. So sorry, NFL fans, but I just don't like it. If it's a good thing that I'm literally not popular at all, because I'm sure that I'd be getting a lot of hate mail right now. So I appreciate the fact that my anonymity is hiding me from all of the anger. Um, let's do uh, let's do the Colts. Colts, good, yeah, solid. I kind of have a bit of a beef because of the whole Baltimore thing, but it's a nice, elegant, clear logo. I don't think I've seen any other teams with kind of a horseshoe like that before. So it's fine, but it doesn't really, it's missing the zhuzh of some of these other, higher ones. Um, the Chargers, I really like the Chargers logo. I've always really liked the Chargers. I just think they're really cool. When they were at San Diego, I just thought it was really cool that San Diego. I thought San Diego was really cool as a place. Never been, or I had never been, but I just thought it would be a cool place. And I thought the fact that it was the Chargers from there was just really cool for some reason. I liked the fact that it's a bolt. I also really liked what was it, Junior Seau? Junior Seau was this really cool player from the Chargers. Unfortunately, his life ended in a bit of a tragedy, but he was on like Disney Channel a lot, and so I was introduced to the Chargers that way, and I just always thought that the logo is really cool. Now they've moved. Have they moved to LA? Weird that like LA used to not have any teams, and then it suddenly got two. And I think it was like the Chargers had agreed beforehand, and then they kind of got a bit um, I don't know, put out by the fact that the Rams got there and they kind of stole all the attention. I don't think they're particularly old, are they? Let me think. Let me see. Chargers. No, they're actually decently old. 1960, so they are quite old. What were they before though? They must not have been. Did they enter as the San Diego Chargers? No. Okay, so they started as Los Angeles Chargers and then went and then came back. Okay, that's cool. Nice bit of history there. And I wonder what their old logos. Okay, I'm gonna have to do old logos at one point because that's really cool. The Broncos. I've always thought that the Denver Broncos' logo is a little veiny. I don't know. I don't know. It is cool though, the blue and orange. It's kind of like Princeton, the Princeton colors, but I feel like done better. Sorry, Princeton. So I quite I think the logo is very cool looking, and it's definitely it's unique and it's eye catching. But it's so I'll still put it in A. Just think like a little veiny for some reason. That's Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's weird, but I've always thought the Broncos is pretty cool. The Jaguars, I also think the Jags are pretty cool in terms of a logo. They've also been a team that, at least during my time watching, have never been good. They also have a weird uniform, or they used to have one of those weird uniforms where it was like a black shirt and black shorts, or black pants, which I just thought didn't go. Like I thought a whole color just seemed a bit, as my mother would say, gormless. But now all the other teams seem to be doing it, so that's fine. But I quite like the Charger, or the Jags logo. I think it's cool, and it's a cool icon. It's a bit obviously intimidating. There's that angle there. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. The Eagles, as a Washington fan, Eagles weren't number one. I do think their logo, though, is one of the older logos that is still very recognizable, and has held up pretty well. It does feel a little heavy now, and maybe they could get that better by like removing the gradients that are usually in some of these older logos, or like middle older logos, make it a little bit more flat. But I don't hate it. I just don't think it's as good a bird logo as like the Falcons. So I'm gonna keep it at B. The uh the Buccaneers, I love the name, the Buccaneers. I love the fact that they weren't just the Pirates, and they're the Buccaneers. And I should like this logo. I like the idea of it. Oh, it's a pirate flag, skull and crossbones with football on it. That's cool. I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't do it for me, and I don't know why. So I feel like the Buccaneers could be much cooler looking, but um, yeah, they're not. New York Jets, shame. I've always feel bad for the New York Jets. Everyone seems to make fun of them, and I don't know. I heard that they were doing not bad this year, but yeah, their logo has never really done anything for me. It doesn't seem. I mean, their name is the Jets. Have to imagine. No, wait. Let me make sure. I'm not going to be an idiot here. I mean, I'm definitely an idiot, and Jets fans would probably be upset. But they, what is their like? If their name is a reference to the Jets, as in a jet airplane, surely you could use some inspiration. You have a lot of imagery that you use for your logo, and so I think it's an old fashioned one. Doesn't really do it for me. I don't really get what the association is with New York, and don't like it very much. Having said that, I'm sure the Jets are wonderful, and their fans are certainly very passionate. So please don't write letters. Um, the the Giants, sticking with New York, I've always thought the New York Giants, like, yeah, it's that kind of New York Yankees era of doing, what is it, logo marks that are a stylized text. So I actually think it's okay. I just don't think it's as good as the Yankees, the NY, mixing together. And so if it's not going to be as good a mixing as the Yankees, then I would feel like, they're called the Giants. And there's a version of this logo, or the logo, that's just the Giants. But I feel like there could be something more there. And so I just yeah, not a fan. San Francisco. San Francisco, I think the 49ers, they also have a logo with 49ers on it. I think they're a really interesting name. I love the name, the 49ers. I love the history with it. I think that they could do a bit with it. They could do something with, like, I don't know, a gold pick, or a gold, yeah, a pickaxe, or something like that, just highlighting the heritage of the 49ers themselves. But I think their mixture of the SF is a bit better. Certainly, I feel like it's a bit better than NY. But it does look a little old fashioned. So, like, I wonder if you could make it a little bit more modern. The San Francisco also has the San Francisco Giants, right, in baseball, and I think they also have an SF that's stylized a little bit more like the baseball like San Diego and folks like that. So yeah, I like it as text logos go, but I just feel like it could be so much more. And the 49ers is just a cool idea for a team name that, yeah, they could do better. Kansas City Chiefs, simple, still has the logo, like a text mark or a logo mark, but also has some imagery there as well. So I think it's a solid one. I've always felt like always felt watching them growing up that they were very similar to the Washington team because they're both they one was burgundy and gold, but also a lot of white, and Kansas City was red and white. And so I always got those a little bit I don't know, confused. I always felt like Kansas City, their uniforms were like a an imitation of the Washington uniforms. They both had Indian imagery, and so I don't know. There was quite a bit of similarity just growing up that way. But as I've matured, I quite like the way that the Kansas City logo looks. I also think that I mean I haven't um, I don't know if their name is also considered problematic, but it looks like it's a lot more respectful. A name highlighting highlighting heritage and history there, especially where it is in Kansas City. And so, on the face of it, at least, it feels like a much more respectful and interesting logo that harkens back to like a typical football tropes. Warrior looking to be both intimidating but elegant, and I like that. So B. The Vikings. So the local high school around our area was Walt Whitman High School, and they were the Vikings as well. So in U.S. For anybody outside the U.S., a lot of U.S. high schools will adopt like NFL names or NFL teams, their logos or slight variations of their logos um, for their teams. So it was the Walt Whitman Vikings, which I always thought was really really fun. I quite like this. I think it's great, and it because it's an angry Viking dude, and it's from Minnesota, where lots of people are from at least Swedish descent. Which I know that maybe you could argue about the Viking appropriateness, but I don't know. I've met a lot of people from Minnesota that if they grew their hair out, kind of looks like this dude. And I love the shape, and I love again purple. The use of purple in a team, I think that's really cool. So anyway, I like I like the Vikings. I like it. The Browns. I think the Browns are like iconic as a team concept because they are just the color, and that's it. From a logo perspective, not super advanced. But I do like I this is again a team that I love the fact that it exists, but objectively, it's not really that interesting of a logo. So this is another example. I love that the Browns exist. I love the fact that their team name is the Browns, and I love the fact that they've leaned into that and that it's just the color brown that is their logo. Great. But objectively, from a logo perspective, you know, I think there was a reason why the old Libyan flag didn't win any design awards. It was just a green flag. So in a similar vein, um, yeah, they're not just sorry. I'll go to another. It's mostly water now, so it's much nicer. Okay, so Bears. So there's an alternative logo of the Bears that I should have put on here instead. That is a bear itself, and I think that's quite nice. But again, I don't think it's particularly iconic like the steer is there or the Bronco is. So yeah, the Bears team with a lot of history. They are usually the big rivals to the Packers. Are they? They're one of the original, surely. Oh yeah. I was reading about this. So the Bears actually started life as obviously not the Chicago team because that was the Cardinals, and they started in 1919 in a different league, and they were the Decatur Stanleys. So they then grew into the Bears in what, 1921? Let's see, the Chicago Stanleys, and then they became the Bears in 1922. So really interesting background with them. Old team. Uh, but yeah, I felt like their logos, yeah, it's comforting, strong, old fashioned, but the C, I don't know. I don't really like it. The Panthers, I used to really like this logo. I loved it in the 90s, but it kind of feels like a very 90s logo. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that it also could do with some updating. But I also think it's better than, I think it's more interesting than some of these ones. So I feel like it deserves to be in C tier. Uh, the Raiders, old fashioned, a lot of history. I guess you could look at it in a similar way to, as an alternative to the Buccaneers. I've just never really liked it. I don't know why. I feel like maybe it's the black and white. I know that's supposed to be intimidating. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Orlando Pirates, which is or at least one of the logos of the Orlando Pirates, is a South African soccer team. Um, for some reason, when it's also on people's helmets or on people's jerseys, it just looks quite busy. Maybe it's because it's in a shield. I don't know. I don't know why. I just don't like it, but I feel like I should like it. I think if it didn't have the shield and it was just the dude, that might be better. But I don't know. They've also moved. They were from Oakland. I thought when they were in Oakland, I thought that was actually, they were still known as quite a rough team. They've always been really known as like a rough team, and but for some reason, the fact that they were in Oakland and it was them and the 49ers there, kind of gold glistening and then kind of rough and tumble Raiders just felt more appropriate than the Raiders being in Las Vegas. So I don't really get that, but it's that they moved to Las Vegas. And I don't really understand why. I mean, obviously business, but, and then finally, it's this bloody team. The Washington football team, or now called the Commanders, used to be the Redskins, which was retired as a team name because it was offensive. And they did this. I'm going to leave this down here for a second. I'm going to leave this down here. Oh, I'm going to leave it here. Just tell you a story. So they did this whole thing where they decided. So for years and years and years, the owner, Dan Snyder, whom I do not have a very high opinion of, and not a lot of people do. Oh, we're gonna keep the team. We're gonna keep the name. No problem. And then suddenly, when it was during the Black Lives Matter kind of movement, and around that time, they were also looking at a renewed interest in Native American imagery, and people were just like being semi-adult about thinking, well, what is the imagery that we surround ourselves with? And it was almost like suddenly they were like, oh, we're doing away with the name. Fine. Okay. Great. Awesome. So they changed it to the Washington football team, which is as the temporary name while they came up with an idea of a new name. And they had a competition, and they did all this stuff. They did all these roundabout houses, and there's a whole story about that. The Washington football team, I think, lasted for 2 seasons, and it actually was quite endearing. It became a bit endearing. It almost felt a bit more like a soccer team name, and WFT. I don't know, kind of looked cool, and people quite liked it. And so they had this open kind of call for ideas, and there were some really cool names there. In particular, I really loved this one called the Red Tails, and I'll Washington Red Tails. The Washington Red Tails was this concept. So if you look at these pictures here, you'll see. I don't know what's happening. Okay, so you see that it's an airplane, and then there's also one next to it that's like a pilot. And so the concept around the Red Tails is so cool. It was this African American air squadron from DC that fought in World War II. A lot of history. You can keep having red in the name, and it's relevant. And you're celebrating some badasses that took it to the enemy. So there's still a lot of fighting imagery that you want for a football team. And I imagine this to me seems iconic, right? This kind of thing someone will say, "Oh, it's the Washington Red Tails," and immediately they'll be like, "Oh, why? Why is that?" This team could have existed forever, right? The Washington Red Tails. And what did they go for? They went for the mother flippin' Commanders. The Commanders. The most insipid, uh, bland, awful name that they could have possibly gone with. And it's just crap. And also they've kept the W from like when they were doing the Washington football team, and they did it that way. The W is okay, but it is nothing about it. I mean, it also kind of looks like it's an N with a tail, you know. So I just feel like I mean, as a logo, it's chunky. It doesn't tell you anything. It's worse than the G. It doesn't look iconic at all. And the Commanders is such a deflating name when you say it, that I can't imagine that any of them or what they were thinking. But yeah, so that is my bias out there. But I haven't really seen a lot of positive reaction. Maybe there is, but man, if somebody else buys the Redskins or the Commanders from Dan Snyder, please consider the Red Tails. It's such a cool name. It actually means something. It's not this kind of insipid crap that the Commanders is giving. So anyway, okay. So now I've done them all. I still feel I don't know. At the beginning, I feel like Houston. I'm going to rearrange just to finish it off. I feel like I really like Houston. I think Houston's logo is really really good. What are some other ones? I think I do like the Chargers. I do like the Jaguars. Maybe the Falcons as well. But no, I'm going to keep them there. I think the Texans deserve like a special shout out there. And all these other ones, I don't know. The Tennessee is the one I'm most tempted to put into A, as well as the Cowboys, because they're really good as well. But I feel like this is pretty fair. What do you think? Did you enjoy this? If you're watching this, if you find this in 20 years after Armageddon's happened and somehow this made it through the pile of crap that has been left of the human race, did you enjoy it? Would you like to see more of this? Let me know. But in any case, have a great rest of your week if you're still working, or if you're still active in your week, and have a wonderful weekend when it comes. And who knows, maybe we'll be back this time next week. See ya.